listeners, welcome to another episode of the Air Station One podcast. That's right, folks. It's the season. It is Rock and Roll Hall of Fame season in the class of 2023. The nominees have been announced, and we got a great crew here to talk all about it tonight. Of course, Mr. Mike Gordon is here.
Howdy.
How are you, my friend?
I am peachy keen.
And we have our music blogger herself, Michelle, is here. Welcome.
Hi, thanks.
And we also have Ricky and Bambi.
Hello.
Hi.
The famed radio cult crew is here, and soon to be Rock and Roll Hall of Famers too, eventually. So I think it'll be really awesome and stuff. So we're gonna not bore you guys and do intros and everything other than that. Just if you want to write us, please, feedback at earthstation1.com is the way to get in touch with us. We want to hear what you guys think about the nominees this time. It's a very mixed bag this year. So it's going to be interesting to hear what everyone's opinions are going to be. So let's get started right away, and we will jump in. And Mr. Mike, you want to take it away?
Absolutely. Yeah, they were announced what was it, last week? And it is an interesting class, to be sure. We've got some people who have been on and nominated several times, and some that this is their first time, correct?
Yes.
And overall, what's the feelings about this group?
Overall, everybody that I've seen likes the ballad. It's pretty sonically diverse. It's a little less culturally and gender diverse. Not as many women as a lot of us thought might be on the list. It's a good list. To me, it's kind of missing. Some years they put in an act that just you stop and you go, whoa, I never even thought about them, like a Fela Kuti, and that's not here this year. I mean, everybody here deserves to be in, pretty much.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to that. And there's people here that a lot of people, including me, have wanted for some time. I just was looking for that whoa moment, and it doesn't have a whoa moment. But it's a really good list.
It is a good list. And, we'll see what happens. And, the fan vote is open. And, definitely go vote, folks.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that almost half of the bands are actually rock bands.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fewer than half, but, at least in that direction.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I also noticed too that it seems a lot, maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but it seems like most of the acts are, I don't want to say more recent, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of groups from it seems like the 50s and almost 60s are like done now.
The hall has put out messaging to subtle hints that they're done with that. The Spinners was probably the closest thing to a whoa moment, because we thought, a lot of us thought they were done, and it came out. I think Alan Light from the hall said that the passing of Tom Bell last year prompted them to rethink and put the Spinners back on the list, and I really hope they get in. I think they have an uphill battle on this ballot, but I want them to get in.
It'll be very interesting to see if they do. And, some of these, it's just like, really? But it'll be fun to talk about. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it, because there's 14 acts. So let's see if we can, and some of these we've covered before because they've been on the ballot before. So we've covered them in past episodes, like we've done. But starting with this first group, Tribe Called Quest.
Hold on.
Oh no, we're doing something,
folks.
No.
We are awesome. There we go.
Yes, this is the complete list.
There we go.
And this is the order we're gonna go in.
Oh, this is the order. Oh,
oh,
we're already off.
Okay.
We already screwed it up.
That's okay. This is ESO. We're always screw up stuff like that.
I was just going on the order that the Rock Hall went listed them. So
Okay.
and
Well, this
for some
is-
reason they choose A as A as in the beginning of the alphabet. But
But they,
that's cool.
but obviously they
There's a
didn't,
little
because this is right.
subtle
This
burn
image
there,
is
I
right from
hear.
their webpage. So there you go.
The all right, so we'll start then with Kate Bush. So Kate's been on before, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. This is
And she got like a higher profile over the last year or so because of Stranger Things.
Yeah, it's a funny year in which all the hall bloggers, their consensus pick is Kate Bush. I mean, that just does not usually happen. But she was one of the least surprising names to show up on this ballot.
it's interesting with Kate Bush, because I agree. I've always been a Kate Bush fan since I first heard her in the early 80s. But it's just interesting for me because she's not that well known, but now because of Stranger Things, I think she has a much larger presence. And I think that's how people are going to recognize her from it.
I had heard her name previously before Stranger Things, but I actually didn't know any of her music until Stranger Things.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not terribly surprised. I mean, she didn't chart in the United States very often. And if she
No.
did, she never cracked the top 10, certainly, maybe even the top 20.
She was very, very big on alt
Until last
radio.
year.
Exactly. She was
Sure.
very big in alternate radio, or college radio, as they called it back then.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I do remember the MTV days and Kate Bush's video with was it Donald Sutherland? Was in
Cloud busting. Yeah.
Cloud Busting. Yeah, that seemed to be in heavy rotation. And that's
Mhm.
probably the heaviest song that I mean the most popular song because of that. At least around that decade. And then for the last, even though she hasn't stopped completely, the other thing too with Kate that works against her too is that she doesn't do live performances very often.
Mm-mm.
She's not one that's always touring. She doesn't. Isn't that she doesn't like touring, or she doesn't?
She doesn't. Oh, she doesn't like to fly. I know that. I don't know if she doesn't like to perform or if it's just the grind of
Travel.
the travel thing.
Interesting.
She's
She
a
may have
brilliant
like stage anxiety.
Yeah, she's a brilliant performer when she gets
Very,
on stage. Yeah.
very dance oriented, very classical dance. And you look at like the Wuthering Heights video and such, it's pretty amazing stuff. And I used to, it was always neat. And I was lucky enough to actually see her back in the early 80s, probably 84, 85.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She was just amazing in concert. So it was a neat experience. I could see her getting in. I could definitely, especially with the Stranger Things push, though.
Yeah,
I really feel like this is a case of, oh, I love Stranger Things. Let's put Kate Bush in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year. Wait, why? Well, she was on Stranger Things. What about her music? What about her music? We're not talking about music here.
Yeah,
This is rock and roll. No.
Even though I wasn't really familiar with her music before Stranger Things, I knew about her because so many people did like her. So I think she's influential. She's just not. She hadn't charted until Stranger Things.
My father listened to her, so I was familiar with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks for making us feel old.
Thanks, thanks, Ricky. Thanks, dude. All right, on to the next one. No.
Next.
No, I mean, just lastly, I'll say that, I don't think it's her music ability and her musical excellence and what she brings to the table. I don't think that's in question.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who knows her knows that she is like, one of the best, but at what she does, and what she does is so unique. But as far as, the general public and everything, it's one of those ones that's not as clear up until Stranger Things. And that pushback could work against her, because we've seen before in the past where the Rock Hall will like feel like somebody's like promoting themselves just to get in, and they'll push back, and then they'll be blocked for a while. At least
you can't accuse her of doing that. If anything, she hides from it. I don't know.
She won't show up.
I don't know. I don't know if the voting body will, they're like the Academy voters. They vote a lot of times. They will vote for who they know, who they've worked with. It isn't all this high-minded taking in and weighing the art, the artistic merits all the time. In a perfect world, it would be. It's not. Cyndi Lauper is on this ballot, so they have two quirky women. I am not 100% sure Kate will get in. This is her strongest possibility year, but I still have a little bit of doubt that the voters will go for it. They might just say, "Oh, she's the running up that hill lady," and move on.
Yeah,
that's true. That's very, very true.
Yeah.
All right,
if that's the case, they might put her in as a musical excellence.
That's what I'm thinking also. Should we go on to the next?
Yeah. Next up is Sheryl Crow. I don't know that I've actually said this on the podcast before, but I do not like Sheryl Crow.
Well, there you go.
So
sugarcoat it, man.
Yeah.
Tell us what you really think, Mike.
I'm just gonna say it's a personal thing. I mean, I have respect for her. She's she's certainly got the resume, if you will, and she's certainly well regarded within the industry. But I just she's not my thing at all, and so I'm I can't be objective here. If she gets in, I'm not a fan. Let's put it that way. So I could see her getting in, but she would not be on my list at all. I don't know if she's done, in my opinion, enough to deserve it, but or earn it. But I mean, that's a subjective thing too. So that's my stance anyway. So
yeah, I feel like she had a handful of hits in the 90s, and then she did that song for Cars, and that's about it. I mean, she did have a handful of hits, which is more than some people they induct.
Sure. And she did a Bond theme.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's
true.
I didn't.
Of course.
What was that?
One of the worst rated Bond themes.
Which was it?
I can't remember what the title. I hear it in my head, but now I'm going through.
Does anybody remember what it was?
Yeah, it was "The World Is Not Enough."
Yeah, that's right. It's not enough. Yeah. I didn't think it was that bad, but it's just Bond themes are so usually
grand.
They're better than that. It wasn't bad on its own. It's just in comparison.
I heard someone cover that song. I heard someone else sing it, and I liked the song a lot more than I did with her.
I was going to say, I had wondered.
So and the same thing, I'll say this, the same thing is true about the Sam Smith song, in the last Bond movie. I didn't like the song at all. Not the last one, but the second to last one, Spectre, because he sang "Writing on the Wall," which he wrote. So, I mean, I guess he has the right to sing it, but I heard a female vocalist do it, and I was like, oh my God, I like this song. So it sometimes it's all in the delivery. And, I don't feel like Sheryl Crow delivers, but I'll step off. I'll step off that hill.
It feels
You're not going to run up that hill?
Yeah.
It feels to me
down that hill.
Like she's, and maybe it's just me, but it feels to me like she's kind of country.
She is country rock.
She's transitioned between
a country
the two.
Twang. It's mostly
a little bit, but
but
most of her hits have been in the top 40, and she's had number ones, quite a few actually.
I mean,
so
she's kind of VH1 when MTV was the cool stuff and VH1 was the stuff your mom listens to. She kind of seems like VH1 that my mom would have listened to. I mean, not my mom. My mom listened to the Ramones, but
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but
not a fan. She's walking in.
Yeah, I think
I think
there's a
she's
good chance
wonderful.
she's going to get in, but I'm not a fan either. You know, I like her, but I'm not like, oh, she's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame material. So
Yeah.
I would vote against that.
I don't dislike her, but I was like, what? Okay.
I was thinking I'm kind of surprised because I know that she's, you know, pretty well regarded, and usually my thoughts on her are not echoed, so it's surprising to me that everybody here is kind of on that side. Although I don't know, like I said, her vocals don't do anything for me. In fact, they do the opposite of what I think she intends. But I mean, Bambi, since you're the vocalist in the room, like, is she like, is do you respect her vocals?
I do. I do.
Okay.
Yeah, she's really good at what she does. It's just sounds like you don't like what she does.
No, I don't. I don't.
That's I respect that too.
But all
I
she
wasn't
wants to do is
crazy
have some
about
fun.
Yeah, that's the first song I heard of hers was that, and I didn't like that. So I didn't think I liked her, but then I've since like really thinking about it, I was like, well, no, I actually like a lot of her songs, but I'm
Mhm.
not a fan, but I'm not in your level of distaste. I'm like, yeah, I like her
Yeah.
all right. She's good. I really like some of her songs, like the way that they're written. And it's like when you said country, I was like, her guitar, a lot of the guitar elements and some of the songwriting is very country-esque, but
Mhm.
not necessarily the vocal melodies. So
See,
anyway,
if she was from the 60s, I would have put her in the folk movement type of stuff.
yeah, I can
I
see
can
that.
see that.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see that. Hmm.
So that's where I put her in everything. So
Hmm.
okay, so Sheryl Crow. Okay.
Eh.
Okay. All right, let's go on to the next.
We like what we
Miss-
like.
Missy
Missy
Elliott.
Elliott.
And her Nokia cell phones.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's why I did it.
I understand that she is a pillar of the hip hop community.
Yes.
I think I've heard a couple of. Is she on the she's on the Moulin Rouge, right?
Yeah.
The that song that they did with Pink and all that, right?
Yes.
Lady Marmalade, right? She's on that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And you know, I will say this, I'm not denying her spot. I think she's probably, you know, she's, you know, earned it, but there are other female, particularly female hip hop and rap people that I think should get in before her.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we talked about Salt and Pepper.
Did Queen Latifah ever get nominated?
No.
Has
Missy Elliott is the first female hip hop artist to ever be nominated. They have done man after man after man. So she's not in my wheelhouse. I recognize her as a legend. I was happy to see this in that they were finally recognizing a woman in that genre.
Yeah, I guess that is
for
cool.
that. I hope she gets in, and then I hope they circle back and look at MC Light and Queen Latifah and Salt and Pepper. But
yeah,
I cannot say I know anything.
Well, I guess TLC is not really in there.
Yeah.
Nope.
TLC, yeah.
Yeah, Missy Elliott's not up my wheelhouse either, and sorry to say that, but I only know like 2 songs by her.
I am gonna try really hard to not say anything.
I think she will get in. I think yeah.
There's a good chance she will. You want them, all right? Any other comments?
I don't think so. I don't, not qualified enough. Sorry.
I'll just say, for people who haven't heard my opinion before, it bothers me that so much music that isn't rock and roll is in and considered for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They need to call it something else if it's not going to be rock and roll.
Yeah.
Okay, how many people had 20 minutes into the show that Ricky would say?
I know, they're like,
I think it's cool that
everyone drink. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody should know we include that guy in our show.
Yes, we do.
So, all right. Now, this is a band that I don't think you can argue is not rock and roll.
But I can argue the choice of that photo.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You don't have the singer, the voice for the band in there. Iron Maiden is the band on this list that I think should have been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as soon as they were eligible.
Absolutely.
I mean, to me, this is the only band on the list that I have zero reservations about being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They've put out dozens of albums. They've got some of the most well-known album covers of any band in rock and roll history. They put out a ton of amazing songs, and you absolutely cannot deny that they were influential musically.
Even the font they use for their logo, if it's not paired up with their name, it's used for something else, other people recognize it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And they have great, even a little, icon, the guy,
Eddie.
Yeah. Eddie.
I 100% support the inclusion of Iron Maiden in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I'm just ashamed that they haven't been in there sooner.
I agree. They've been overlooked. I think certainly the door's been kind of cracked open a little bit in the past for heavy metal, if you will. These are guys at the forefront. Nobody, I can't think of anybody who would argue. The only thing about them is that they're kind of not to Kate Bush's level, but they never had like top hits, right? They never were on the radio much because they were doing their own thing. And the fact that they're as huge and influential and as pioneering as they are without without having that, I think is even more of a testament to them.
But I will say that at the end of the relevant era of their career, they had 2 hits, and they had 1 hit after they ceased to be relevant.
What was that?
3 hits. That's more than Kate Bush.
There you go.
Unlike Kate Bush, they fly. Bruce Dickinson can fly jet.
That's
right.
Go.
Bruce Dickinson,
that's true.
not pictured.
Yeah. And you certainly can't say that these guys don't like to tour because they've been around the world.
Gosh, yeah.
I think they're still.
Times.
Are they still together?
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Is there any of that drama that bands usually have that get in? Like, they don't have all the original members, or will these people show up or not? Or
what I'm going to say about Iron Maiden is they were a 2-guitar band from the beginning. And at one point, one of the guitar players left and they had somebody else join. And when the older guy wanted to come back in, they became a 3-guitar band. So rather than making somebody leave, they just said, we're just going to add another guy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And I thought that was
pretty
really
cool.
That's so metal.
Yeah.
More
It'll
guitar.
Make the noise
More
up
guitar.
to 11.
Let's
Up to
add one
11,
more
folks.
guitar. Let's turn it up to 11, right? Like, I mean, Iron Maiden is so popular they were parodied, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Constantly.
Yep.
Yes.
I will say, of everybody on the list, this is the one that I think that's my number 1 choice. If they were going to win this current list, it would be Iron Maiden.
Their chances are probably not great, but I mean,
No.
who knows? I think they're better now than they would have been if they were on the ballot like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is their 2nd nomination.
Gotcha.
So
yep.
Here's hoping.
Yep.
Fingers crossed.
So, all right. Next, we have 2 bands. No, just kidding. Well, kind of. I don't know. I've never seen the Rock Hall do this, where they're putting in like 2 bands in one spot, and that's Joy Division and New Order. Now, I know that they have, as the Rock Hall says, a single story, but I
very much so.
I don't know that this has been. Is this unprecedented?
No.
Oh,
no.
Small faces.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because I'm not surprised they did it this way, and it's a better chance of both bands making it in this way.
To me, it feels like, hey, we're going to nominate the Beatles / the Traveling Wilburys. You think that they should both be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I'm sorry, they're the same band, pretty much. It's not the same band.
It's
They do have some of the same members, but that doesn't make it the same band when the musical style completely changes.
I disagree with that, Rick. Sorry.
You're absolutely welcome to disagree, but I think it's two different bands.
Well, it's interesting because Joy Division was on the brink of making it huge, and with then the lead singer committed suicide right on the beginning of their US tour, and the rest of the members of it went in and they became New Order, and they but they didn't do like Traveling Wilburys. Come on, dude. That's picking.
Yeah.
You have a better
Well,
chance
you
of
had
saying
Jeff
we had
Lynne
we had a
and a
better
Beatle,
chance.
so it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, but in it, was it
You
Joy
had a better
Division
chance with
Order
Ringo's All Stars. Come on.
it's all the same members. The singer died. They changed their name, went on, and then added a keyboardist. I think it was a keyboardist.
But they
Yep.
changed the style of music.
See, yes and no. To me, it was still similar. It was just like as a band grows. If the singer had stayed and they still went the direction they went, it would still be the same band to me.
Exactly.
So Velvet Revolver's just Guns N' Roses with a different singer.
Pretty much.
Yeah. It is.
That's funny.
But also,
honestly,
Joy Division, and then New Order had, almost greater success than Joy Division. More people know New Order than Joy Division in a lot of circles.
Yeah, I will say, all right, taking them either together or separately, right? I will say that if you're including, quote unquote alternative rock, new age, whatever you want to call it, you have to put both these bands in, because they're both heavily influential in terms of, I mean, if you put The Cure in, you've got to put New Order and Joy Division in. If you're, that it just, they were always at the forefront of that movement. They were always there. And they were always doing things with their music that other bands were imitating. This is, by the way, New Order is one of the few bands on this list that I've seen in person, and they were really boring.
Wow.
And I will say that because they sound like what they bring to the stage is exactly what they record almost. I mean, they can capture it pretty closely, so it sounds exactly the same. There's not a lot of jamming going on, not a lot of improv. And they don't really put on a great show. They just sort of play the music, and that's cool. I'm not saying that, that it wasn't fun to listen to and everything, but it's kind of a dull show. If that's what you're trying to get the crowd into it. I mean, everybody's dancing like you're at a rave or something. Heck, I don't even know if raves would exist without these two bands.
Yeah. Because
they started the whole trend of not doing anything on stage, so you got to keep yourself entertained.
Maybe. I mean, I will say that I like their music a lot. And there's not probably a few days that go by without me getting one of their songs stuck in my head. So to me, they have all the qualifications. I think it's odd that they're combining them like this.
If you nominate one,
yes,
people will be screaming about the other one, and you don't want to go through this. Well, what if we get in one and then the other one doesn't make it for a few years? Put them both in.
I mean,
I get it. Or likely happen, neither of them will get it.
Now, I think that has one of the other been nominated before?
No, this is the
first time.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to happen on this ballot.
No, I think it's going to be next year.
Yeah.
I think, and I want to see them in. I think they deserve to be in. But, more than other people who are nominated this year. So it'll be very curious to see.
I don't know. The last few years, we've gotten The Cure in, we've gotten Depeche Mode in. I think the door is open for that slot, every year. And I can't think of a better act to fill that slot than these guys. So that's my stance. I would vote them in
Okay.
separately or together.
Okay. Well, there you go. Cyndi
All
Lauper.
right. And Cindy, this is her first time?
First time.
First
God,
time.
it's so amazing to me that some of these acts have been eligible for a long time.
Yeah.
And like this is only the first time.
And her fan base has erupted. they are just losing their minds.
Is she leading the fan
She
vote?
is leading the fan vote. She slipped for like a day, and George Michael took the first spot, and they were not having it.
I will say this.
Crazy.
A lot of people don't understand how amazing of a singer she is.
Yeah.
Oh, she's brilliant.
So underrated.
She is probably one of the best singers that has ever been on the charts.
Wow.
She is an amazing singer.
She makes it sound easy.
Yeah. I think
of course George Michael's on this too, and I'm like, oh,
I'll
see my comments.
I have a absolutely huge level of respect for Cyndi Lauper, and I also like a lot of her songs. I don't know that I'd put her in the category of rock, but if we're talking about rock and pop, I think she definitely deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I would like to point out that Girls Just Want to Have Fun is a cover. Nobody seems to know that.
Yeah, she made a lot of covers her own. When You Were Mine is a Prince song, but she kind of owns that too. And there's a couple of other tracks too. But I mean, you can't deny like that her version of it in particular became like an iconic women's theme, like that is like just transcended anything, any of the music charts.
Yeah, I think that if we're talking about other genres besides rock, Cyndi Lauper deserves to be on here as much as anybody. I mean, she's an amazing performer. She has a lot of great songs. She's covered a lot of great songs. I really don't have anything negative to say about her.
Good, because you'd have to go through me. No, just
well, then I'll get started. No, because I'm not a Cyndi Lauper fan at all, and I'm not so sure I would want to even see her in the Rock Hall, because literally, for me, after the mid to late 80s, she disappeared in a lot of ways, and I hadn't heard anything. So is Sheryl Crow. So is, so is a lot of these other folks that you guys have badmouthed and said, oh, I don't think they should be in. I think,
but I'm just responding to the comment that she hasn't done anything since the 80s.
No, but she hasn't had a hit, or she hasn't had anything, anything on the charts. And so for me, I have, I respect her. I thought she was great in the 80s. I thought she was different. Hey, she's so unusual. It was it was a great album, and I saw her in concert, and she was fun, and she did put on a great show. But I don't, like Ricky said, she's very poppy at the end, but she has a great, like you said, a great vocal range. But is that enough to get her into the Rock Hall? I'm not so sure. So,
I mean, I get it. So that is that you sort of, you can use the same arguments that I have for Sheryl Crow on Cyndi Lauper, but if it comes down to the two of them, I'm in Cindy's corner every time. And also because I think she and that album and the whole rock and wrestling thing just transcended and took rock into places that it hadn't been to before, and she's like the face of that, and I think that means that should be counted too.
It really begs the question, what do we consider something Rock and Roll Hall of Fame worthy? I mean, is it about longevity? Is it about talent? Is it about popularity? Is it
Influence.
about being a rock musician? Obviously, that's not it. But there are a lot of different levels, or a lot of different forms of success, and a lot of different forms of being celebrated. So if you're talking about talent, I don't think there's any argument that she should be in there. If you're talking about whether or not she's rock and roll, maybe. But like I said, that doesn't seem to be the case. If you're talking about how much longevity she had with hit songs coming out year after year after year, then maybe she's not eligible for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But if you're just talking about how influential she was and how talented she is, and the fact that people still go to her shows, all of those things would say she's very deserving of a nomination.
Well, somebody commented on my blog and said, well, she went away and the culture forgot about her. And she was done after 88. And I replied, and I said, well, in that span of time, she became 3/4 of an EGOT, wrote 2 Broadway musicals, one of which she won a Tony for, got into the Songwriters Hall of Fame, did numerous acting jobs, recorded albums across. She did bluegrass, she did jazz, she did country. She was doing things that she thought were valid, that she thought were important, and it wasn't stuff that the label wanted to promote and back up. I don't think that commercial success is everything about getting into the Hall of Fame, because that just makes the Hall of Fame a rubber stamp for, oh, you're famous. Ka-chink. I mean, she influenced people like Lady Gaga. We wouldn't have Lady Gaga without her. And as far as one album, a lot of people go off on the one album. Guns N' Roses is in there for one album. They sure as hell aren't in there for what's it, Chinese
Democracy.
They're not in there for that, folks. So
I don't know if the Sex Pistols are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but they only had one.
Yeah, thank you. They are in the Hall of Fame.
But they are influencers.
Yes, exactly. So
yeah,
there you go.
And I think to your point, Ricky, I think that it is different. Like, I don't think there's a one thing that you like. There's not at a path that you have to do check off this, and this to get in the hall. I think it's different for every artist, and it just depends on a lot of different factors.
Right.
Because it's not like, oh, if you have 10 #1 hits, you automatically get in. It's more nuanced than that, I think. And then that's what makes kind of talking about this stuff interesting, I think.
Ready to go on to the next?
Yeah. So yeah, George Michael. So yeah, I mean, a lot of things that we just said about Cyndi Lauper could be said about George Michael.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd say again, phenomenal vocalist.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing
my God,
vocalist.
He was so good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whether you liked his music or not, oh my God, he oozed talent.
That guy could really sing.
If you had told me in the 80s, in 85, 86, that 30, 40 years from now, we're going to be talking about the Hall of Fame, and we're discussing or debating whether Cyndi Lauper or George Michael should get in, I would be like, you're crazy. Like, they both are like should be in right away. Like at that time, these people were like, I don't want to say gods, but they were huge. They were like bigger than life. They were the at the top of the pillar as far as the 80s music goes, right? Like amazing 80s music scene. And I just it's hard for me to separate that from the music sometimes.
Not only was he a brilliant vocalist, he was one of the best songwriters in pop history. Just an absolute freaking genius.
Is that the cue that we all needed to start singing Careless Whisper?
Oh yeah.
Never.
Now we just need to start meowing the sax part.
I will never forgive him for Sexy Sax Man. That's all I'll say.
I don't know, Mike, what do you think about George Michael?
I enjoyed his music I liked it when he was with Wham, and I also liked a lot of his solo stuff. Do I think he deserves to be in the Hall? Yes, I do. I think he is very well deserving as a songwriter, as an influencer. He, influenced a lot of, Justin Timberlake and folks like that later on, and I think, just, and also what he gave to the industry was just amazing stuff. And, poor Andrew, is never going to get
Yeah.
into the Hall, but that's okay.
Maybe he can go and accept on his behalf.
Yeah, but I'm like,
Exactly.
sorry, dude, but you were, next to George Michael. That's
Yeah.
really hard to compete.
It's funny as how we used to joke about it, saying that, Wham was kind of like the Rockers in the WWE.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. And George Michael was like Shawn Michael.
Exactly.
Shawn Michaels, yeah.
The
Yeah,
thing with
very
George
similar
Michael-
there, except, and it's unfortunate too, because it's hard to think of, and this in particular, that it's pretty, his tale's a pretty sad one overall.
He fell very
And
hard.
yeah, well, yeah, and he was a superstar, and yeah, the way he ended up was just not fair to anybody.
I said when he died, that was heartbreaking because it's like celebrities die. There's all these people saying, "Oh, I miss this person. Oh, they were a genius." This and that. When he died, it was just nonstop making fun of George Michael memes. I kept saying, "I was like, man, that's so sad. He was
Agreed.
so talented, and he didn't get the same respect when he passed that the general public seems to get."
That is true.
I was like, "Oh,
Yep.
that's so awful."
Nope, agreed.
All right. Well, on that happy note, I guess we will take a quick break, and then we will round out the second half of the nominees.
We'll be back in a moment, and we have a new sponsor, so check them out, folks. All right. This is our first break for YouTube people. So, hi, YouTube folks. We're wondering, do you think who will be any honorable, how every year, and this is going mostly to Michelle, each year they do, have like songwriters who go in or people who are big in the industry and such. Is there any predictions who are they going to have for that this year?
Ooh, is there any talk about musicians getting in?
Musical
or lawyers? Last year, didn't a lawyer get in?
The only one I'm really thinking of now is I think Shaka Khan will get musical excellence. And after that, they really need to stop going to that well and figure out how to do this properly. Because they have done it so much that it's now known as the consolation prize.
The back door.
The back door, the consolation prize. Judas Priest got it and they were happy, and all their fans were like, it's not real. They're not even going to be allowed to perform, which of course was not true. And it wasn't true for LL Cool J either, but it's become known as a consolation prize, and the Hall needs to work out a clear way to do this. But I think she will get in as musical excellence because they have tried so hard to get her in. And the voting body, I don't know why they're not going for it. And meanwhile, Mary J. Blige, Mariah Carey, Patti LaBelle are all waiting, and they have got to move that log jam on the female R&B artists. So I would look for her. Beyond that, I am not sure right now. I know what I would like to see, but I don't know if I'll see it.
Okay. Awesome. Anyone who would you like to see?
My pet project is to get Estelle Axton in there next to her brother, because she was excluded when he was inducted 12 years ago.
No, I understand.
She wrote an amazing blog about her career.
Thank you.
Yep.
And the fact that she's really worthy.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, she was a behind the scenes mover, and because she was female, she was overlooked.
Yeah.
Gotcha. It's so weird having George Michael look over my shoulder this whole time. Yeah, that's pretty cool though. So yeah, thank you, YouTube listeners. We always love you, and we always love, giving you guys a little bit extra, during the recordings and everything. All right, Mikey, ready to start back up? Go with the next one.
Let's take on the second half.
All right, welcome back. Now it's time for the second half of the class of 2023 nominees for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Mr. Mike, take it away with Willie.
Is this the oldest guy on the list?
Willie's going to be,
90
he's 90.
years old this year.
Yep.
Willie Nelson is on
Judy
the
and
list.
I are actually thinking about going to his 90th birthday party that they're having at the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
You get to see Sheryl Crow.
I know. Lucky me. Yay.
Yeah. I'll pass. But okay, Willie Nelson is a songwriter. We all know who Willie Nelson is. He's mainly country and folk. I think certainly is he on the level of Johnny Cash, who's already in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? He's
Yes.
probably I would say
Yes.
he's equal to sort of Dolly Parton, who was nominated and got in last year. But I mean, I don't know. I'm certainly not denying that he's not. I can't say anything negative about Willie Nelson as far as his status and his career, and his life. He is an American institution. So, and if the Rock Hall is trying to get more like brownie points by getting him in there, like they did with Dolly Parton, I guess this is a no-brainer.
I think he's got a good shot, and I think it's really cool.
And he's been a crossover artist, in multiple hits that he's done, and not just on the road again. And so I think, and he's written rock songs, and he's written, songs that rock bands have covered over the years. And, I definitely think Willie, I think he's a shoo-in for this year. I think.
Where's Julio Iglesias? They did a duet together. Like they should recreate that.
Yeah.
So you're saying it could be Willie Nelson / Julio Iglesias because it's pretty much just the same guy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right.
My favorite's down there like, no. Where's the mute button?
Although I will say this is, unfortunately with some of the other artists that we're talking about, like the one we just talked about before the break, George Michael, if they're going to put them in, please put them in while they're still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, George Michael's not still alive.
Yeah.
No. That's why I'm like, it's so sad that they, sometimes wait too long to make these decisions and arbitrarily. And, it's just, it happens more often than I'd like.
I don't think Willie Nelson cares at all if he's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
No, but, I don't think he does either.
But that's because he's one of the most rock and roll people out there.
Yeah.
I
feel like I'm getting a contact high just looking at the photo.
I do think that Willie Nelson is up there with Johnny Cash when it comes to rock and roll country artists. I mean, there's a lot of rock and roll legitimacy with both of those artists, even if they're in the genre of country, because there was a lot of the rock and roll attitude. And I think if either of those artists had come out a few decades later, there's a good chance they would have been rock artists instead of country artists.
I can't disagree with that.
I think Willie Nelson is an incredible songwriter.
Yeah.
And he has written so many amazing songs. And he has certainly been someone who has stayed in the public eye for just not just years, but generations.
Sometimes that was not by choice.
Right.
Touche.
But nonetheless,
that makes it even more
rock and roll. I don't know why you would not put him in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The only thing that I can see that would prevent someone from being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame like Willie Nelson is being a country artist. And since that doesn't matter, put him in. I mean, come on, why not?
Is this his first time being nominated?
Yes.
Yes.
How is that possible? He's
Yeah,
been in
that's
the business over 60 years.
The Hall is
A fickle
showing
bitch.
signs of being very interested in developing a relationship with the country genre. They're sponsoring some concerts at the Ryman. I would look in future years for Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings. I bet you Waylon Jennings will be next. I could see Patsy Cline. I could see Emmylou Harris.
Chris Christopherson.
Oh man,
maybe
talk
Loretta
about
Lynn.
underrated.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a ton of country artists who are ready to go across and everything.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, it'll be a trend.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're having a party, invite
More the
Willie
merrier.
Nelson. Like if he shows up, so much the better.
Yeah. Just prepare for a contact high. It'd be good.
Yep. You're like, what's this fog machine? Oh.
Willie's in the bathroom again. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
With a
All
lot of
right.
other artists, I'm sure. Yeah, he's not solo on that one. All right. Rage Against the Machine has been nominated a few times.
Weren't they in last year?
This is their 5th or 6th. And I don't know if it's going to change with this ballot.
I don't think so.
I have a feeling they're going to have to go the Veterans
Backdoor
Committee or Musical Excellence or whatever way they're. Yeah, I don't see this happening right on the ballot this year.
I'd like to see it, but
I'd like to see it too. I think the thing that with me that doesn't, I never vote for them not because they're not worthy, just because I feel like there's so many other artists that should be in before them. That if we're going chronologically anyway, like there's other artists that really need to be in while they're still alive. Like I think a band like Green Day was admitted way too soon.
Yes.
And
I love Green Day.
And yeah, I do too. And I think they're worthy of it, but I think they just were put in way too soon. The first year I think they were eligible, and like to me it's like you just took away a spot from a veteran who could get in before they die. Like, not to say that the young, they could die at any age, but I think they should get in. I like their music a lot, at least some of it, and I think they're influential. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about them before. I don't know if there's anything new that we need to say about them, but
yeah.
Well, I'll say, possibly surprisingly, I'm not really a big fan of theirs.
Really?
But despite that, I do think that they were extremely influential, and they were definitely doing a new form of rock. So when it comes to originality, success, and influence, I think they should be in. But I agree with Mike that it might be a little early for them to be in. Or maybe it's just I'm really freaking old. And so it just seems like they're a new band to me.
Well, there is that too. But I don't know. You can't really talk about the late 90s or aughts, right? The 2000s, early 2000s without Rage Against the Machine and Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
And I don't think Limp Bizkit's even been mentioned. No. So, and that surprisures me too, because
I would totally choose Rage Against the Machine over Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, I would too.
I don't disagree with that, but from my experience was they both were huge around that time, and I'm surprised that one is not being mentioned at all.
I would think Korn in that lineup.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Korn's probably more so.
But I think of all those bands that we're talking about, Rage Against the Machine was the most musically talented and most musically creative.
I also think they were most diverse too,
and they were most political.
They're definitely most political.
No question.
Yeah. I mean, they were really raging. Like the others were like, we're a band making money, but Rage Against the Machine really felt more like a movement.
Yeah, I mean, they're like the Bob Dylan of their era.
Interesting.
Bono was pretty hard. going for a while there.
Yeah.
Sometimes on social media, people push back against who's their founder there? I'm blanking out because I'm sleepy.
Yeah, I could just think Tom Morello. That's the guitar player.
Tom. They
Well,
push
he was
back
the
against
guitarist.
Tom.
Guitar.
Stop bringing politics into it. And then
Yeah.
there's somebody like, the
hello?
name of the band. Yo,
Yeah, I know.
name of the band.
I actually have a interesting side note here. Someone on Twitter said, I used to be into Rage Against the Machine until they got political.
What?
And Tom Morello responded, which of my songs did you not think was political so that I can remove them from social media? And when that happened, we did a cover of a Rage Against the Machine song. When that happened, our cover got something like 20,000 listens.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
in a very short amount of time.
Yeah. So it helped us tremendously.
That is awesome. That's cool.
All right.
Soundgarden.
Soundgarden.
Definitely influential.
Oh,
Definitely
God, yes.
influential. And
Saw them the first time in 1991.
Yeah,
Chris a phenomenal singer too.
you can't talk about Seattle grunge without Soundgarden.
No, it's funny too, because they were right up there with Nirvana. They were there with, Alice in Chains and Pearl Jam, Mudhoney, all those.
Yeah.
And, Soundgarden was all part of that. They were, they all exploded all at the same time. And I think a lot of times Soundgarden's the least, recognized of the group.
Which is weird to me, because in my opinion, this is just my opinion, but to me they were the best musically. And Chris Cornell has the best voice of any of them, any Seattle band ever. I saw Chris Cornell in person singing at a concert, but solo. So I haven't seen Soundgarden itself, but I've seen Chris Cornell. And it was just a amazing experience. It was just him and a guitar, really. And I was like, damn, like this guy, I don't know why he's not like, they're not talked about more often. Why do you think they're not? Like, they had hits. They were on the charts. They were huge at the time, but
a lot of times their hits were a little bit later though than, because Nirvana was the one that broke it, and then was Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains, and Soundgarden was probably a year later.
Was it Black Hole Sun, which was a lot later? That was their biggest.
Yeah,
one.
Black Hole Sun.
They had hits
Spoon
at the
Man.
same time as the other bands you're mentioning, but they just were eclipsed by Nirvana and Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
I think that's true, and I think personally, Soundgarden is a better band musically and in almost every sense than either of those two bands.
Different.
So
different.
I mean, that's a personal preference, but I'm always scratching my head as far as why they're not in the conversation more, because I really think that they're worthy and they're a great band.
I think the reason is that their songs weren't as commercially accessible. So even though they did have hits, where Smells Like Teen Spirit captured a generation,
yes,
a lot of Soundgarden songs went over the heads of most of the common listeners.
Yeah.
And I put that, the same way Alice in Chains is, because the same way a lot of it.
Alice in Chains was originally promoted as a thrash band.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
They toured with Slayer, Anthrax, and Megadeth, which seems totally bizarre in hindsight.
Justin Timberlake and AC/DC, just saying.
Jimi Hendrix and the Monkees, but still.
Yep.
Soundgarden sent me their demo in the 80s.
Really?
Yeah.
Because Soundgarden had been around since 82, I think. They started really early in the 80s. And then just, and they just floundered for a long time.
Yes, they did.
and everything. And then, you know, when grunge was, you know, everyone was trying to sop up everything that was Seattle, and Soundgarden, you know, got caught up with that, and that's where they got their break.
That's
And
really a good point. I think had they come from a different city, they may never have found success.
no, agreed.
Whether they deserve it or not, it's not the point. It's just the fact that they were in Seattle, right place, right time.
Luck of the draw. Yeah.
They ended up getting the opportunity, and once they got the opportunity, they made the best of it. But I agree that they're a phenomenally talented band with a great singer.
Mhm.
Are they still together? No, they're not still together.
No, Chris is gone.
Yeah, I didn't know if the others did anything or not.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and that is another tragedy on the list too. And is this their first nomination?
Second.
But I mean, I think they're worthy. But even if they are, like, you know, the third best band out of Seattle.
Wow.
Well, from what everybody else said, I mean, I think they're on top. They won the Battle of the Bands for me, but I can understand. I can't argue with the fact that Nirvana and was bigger, and Pearl Jam as well. I have my own issues with Pearl Jam, but that's for another podcast. So I don't know. Soundgarden, it gets a thumbs up for me.
Okay.
I have a feeling this could be their year.
Possibly. The Spinners.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The now this is a classic era. This is the only classic era band artist that's on this list, I think. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And is it just a matter of, you know, everybody else is in, and these are like we're talking about the, like, you know, the best of the whatever's left? Or I know you're a big fan of the Spinners and why they should get in, so I guess I'll let you take it from here.
I could not sit here and tell you all their chart positions. They had tons of hits. They were just pristine at what they did. Their career lasted a pretty long time. I think it was at least 2 or 3 decades with the general original lineup. I think in that picture, that's a reconstituted lineup. There's one original member left. Henry Fambro is 85 years old. But they kind of got short shrift there, and we thought there was no chance, and then here they are. Unfortunately, because Tom Bell passed away. Would love to see it.
Do you think because now, you know, I don't know how much they push their views, but now that the alumni includes Daryl Hall and Todd Rundgren, who are both influenced by the Spinners.
I doubt Todd Rundgren is turning the ballot.
Do you think like, you know, that has more sway?
Daryl Hall's been a voter for years. He's probably written in the Spinners every single year. I don't know what would make a difference. I am not sure it'll make a difference this year. I really don't.
They're not doing well in the are they? What are the fan vote? Who's last?
Last is A Tribe Called Quest. It's like every year the hip hop goes to the bottom. It's Missy is second to last. Tribe Called Quest is last, and I think Spinners is fourth from last.
I don't go by the fan vote.
Fan vote does not reflect what the voters will do, but I don't know if the voters will latch onto that. I really don't. So I don't know what will happen. I would like to see them in, but I don't know. But they are really great.
Oh, they are.
Any other thoughts on the Spinners?
No, good band.
I
think
they should be in.
I think, you know, I definitely think so. You know, I want to see them up there singing Rubber Band Man, so it's okay. So I think that'd be kind of
working
cool.
my way back to you, babe. That's the song I keep thinking.
Oh yeah.
Maybe Auntie Dion could come and they could do Then Came You. That would be
that
sweet.
would be awesome. That would be awesome. All right, let's go on to A Tribe Called Quest.
We talked about Tribe Called Quest last year. Is this our second time?
Yes.
Okay, this is our second time, and I think when the first time they were nominated, we talked about them as much as we could, which was not very much.
And it's still not very much.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably the same.
I will say that they kind of hit my radar just recently, because I don't know much about them per se, but they were part of, in the late 80s or early 90s, they were part of, I guess, what's called the Native Tongues movement of hip hop, which also included De La Soul. And as many people probably listening to this know, we lost a key member of De La Soul just yesterday. We found out that he passed, and that was a shocking thing to me. He was my age, like almost exactly my age. And De La Soul, their first album anyway, 3 Feet High and Rising, is a really great album, and I always love them. They're not on the radar very often, and I don't think they've ever been nominated, but they haven't been on the radar because a lot of their their early music, due to sampling issues and all that kind of stuff, has not been available for streaming. That changes next month. So I think a lot of people are going to be reintroduced to De La Soul. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see De La Soul on this list next year. That is a very sidetracked way of talking about Tribe Called West. Tribe Called Quest.
Tribe Called Quest. No, it's interesting, and I think they deserve a listen. I'm not sure that they're going to get in though.
I'd say no.
Yeah, I don't know enough about them per se. I mean, I know a lot more about De La Soul, obviously, and if they're on that kind of level, then then obviously I think they're worth the discussing. They're worth the nomination anyway.
Fair enough. The White Stripes.
Oh yeah,
White Stripes.
Influential.
Yes. I don't have any, personally, I don't question their legitimacy. Is this their first nomination?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, the way the math was working, when the hall was on its old schedule and the ceremony was in the spring, you actually had to be 26 years after your first recording to get in. So they weren't on anybody's radar because they were supposed to be eligible next year, and the hall was like, oh, we're on this new schedule, let's nominate White Stripes, because their first record was 98. So plop. Yep. They were a surprise to a lot of people. So here they are. I think it's interesting that the hall made that little tweak, and they were the beneficiaries of it. Jack White is really well regarded in the industry for production and his recording studio, his record label. Worked with so many people. He's got that familiarity factor.
He does.
So this could be interesting.
And it's interesting because he's, in a lot of ways, he's more, well known as a solo than he is even with the White Stripes and everything. Because a lot of people only know the White Stripes for Seven Nation Army. Yeah. And, other than that, because their first couple albums weren't very popular. And but then they exploded onto the scene, and they were everywhere for quite some time. I think Jack White is one of the most talented guitar players I've ever seen. And he's a great musician all around. And, Meg is not a bad drummer herself. So,
well,
yeah, okay. I was trying to be nice. All right.
Is she better than Ringo?
No.
Yes. No.
You think
no.
Meg White
no,
is
sorry.
a better drummer
sorry.
than Ringo?
No, sorry.
I was going to say
Ringo is much better than Meg White. I thought you were saying that. She filled the role she needed to fill.
Yes.
And I think it's awesome.
I saw a meme when Neil Peart died that Meg White was going to be taking his place in Rush.
Sorry. No.
No, I know that jokes about it, but she was there for a reason, and I think it's neat.
Yeah.
More power to her.
She did her part.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually played drums in some ways in kind of a unique way.
Yeah, yeah.
But she is generally considered the worst drummer to have ever made the charts.
Hey, Meg.
Do you think that this should be like held off and just put Jack in solo?
I think that, combined, if it wasn't for her, the way that she played, if he had gotten a drummer that knew what they were doing, it probably wouldn't have worked the same.
Well, it wouldn't have sounded.
Mhm.
It definitely wouldn't have worked the same.
Yeah, she did add to it because of her I guess inability, like without her knowledge of being a longtime drummer or anything like that. She brought something that somebody that has been playing wouldn't have been able to do. She looked at the drums different because she didn't know what she was doing. And I'm like, that really does add a unique spin that somebody that does know what they're doing can't remove the knowledge that they have and play that way.
And I'll also say, as a drum teacher, it's one of the first 3 songs that I teach kids on drums. Seven Nation Army.
Yeah, the songs.
Yeah.
It's
just very,
yeah.
But there's a lot of changes.
Yeah.
And still new drummers are able to understand a lot of elements about drumming through Meg White. It's a good way to explain a lot of elements of how to play drums.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that in a let's listen to the Shags and talk about what not to do.
Yeah.
I think you can't argue that Seven Nation Army is one of the most famous rock songs in the world now. Every student that I have that comes in, I ask them to name a band, and a lot of them can't even name the Beatles or Led Zeppelin or the Rolling Stones. They can't name any bands. They can't name Nirvana.
You play that riff.
But if you play the riff for Seven Nation Army, they say, "Oh, I know this."
I mean, it's made into sporting events.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, it's
Jack White said that it's not his song anymore, or that the world's taken it, and he's very happy about that. He says it's essentially like a modern folk song.
Yeah.
And it's no longer his, and he's very happy about that. So
I could see that.
Even if Seven Nation Army was the only thing they ever did, it's such a phenomenon that I would say that alone would give White Stripes enough to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, in my opinion. I think that song has just gone beyond a popular song into just the world. Even people who don't listen to any kind of popular music still know that song. It's even more than Smells Like Teen Spirit was for Nirvana. I think Seven Nation Army has just become its own thing. So yeah, I definitely think they deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at some point. I don't know if it's this year, but I think they deserve to be in there.
Agreed.
Think it's too early, or
it seems kind of early. Yes, it would make me mad if they got in, but it does seem a little early. Because I'm not saying it's this is an apples and oranges thing, but they're just kind of plopping in there, and people have been looking for the Pixies for years. It's like, why the leapfrogging?
Yeah. I think that's the only thing that I would balk at too. It's like, okay, but there's a lot of bands from some previous decades that should get in before these guys.
Yeah.
I think the Pixies were definitely a unique thing, but there's not a single song by the Pixies that is even remotely close to the hits that we're talking about by these other bands.
That's
And
true.
I don't mean just the White Stripes. I mean any of the other bands that we're talking about.
Yeah,
Even
because
Sheryl
Stranger
Crow?
Things, Kate
Oh
Bush.
yeah. I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah,
can't look. I will say this about Sheryl Crow. I mean, she's got the
Got a lot of
hit
hits.
She's
resume.
got the
She's got
hits.
that.
Yeah.
She's got that checked off. Those boxes checked off. As far as like top 10 hits, she's got a few of those. As has already been pointed out, she has more of those than, you know, Kate Bush or Iron Maiden or a lot of the other bands in this list.
But I think with the Pixies, their strength is, and their strength in getting in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is they influenced Nirvana.
Mhm.
They influenced the 90s. They were the band that, I mean, not alone, not just them, but they were one of the bands that was almost at the time they called it college rock, the college rock template for what became popular the next decade.
I have to get my little dig in here.
Uh-oh.
The Pixies were the subject of a documentary called Loud, Quiet, Loud. And that was one of the things that they got a lot of credit for, that they gave to Nirvana, was the loud, quiet, loud dynamic. And they said that they got it from another band.
Oh,
Which
There you
band
go.
would that be? They got it from the
There's so
Cars.
many bands that have done that
They got it.
couldn't
They got it
guess.
from the Cars.
Ah.
They cited the Cars.
But just
sorry.
so you know, from a musician's point of view,
Yeah, it is. I'm just saying they got.
it's so phenomenally common
Yeah.
that talking about one band doing that is kind of like saying, well, this band played guitar in their band. This band had
Exactly.
a drummer, so we should talk about that. And Nirvana, they didn't always do Loud, Quiet, Loud.
Nope.
Yeah.
They just did loud.
Polly, just quiet.
Oh, I know.
heart-shaped box, loud, quiet,
Oh,
loud.
yeah.
All right. So
And last but not least,
another classic artist. We're going back
Right.
to the 70s, I guess, on this one.
Yep.
Mainly. He performed after that, but and another artist
70s
who's
and 80s.
who's sadly no longer with us, but Warren Zevon.
Who's been deserved to be in there for quite a many years.
Yeah, he is a unique and significant songwriter, singer, artist, and yeah, he's definitely a musician's musician.
And I think that's really what's going to prevent him from getting in is, oh, the Werewolves of London guy.
Yeah.
You know
Oh,
that
but he's so much more than that, though.
He's
Right?
I
so
know
much
that,
more.
and you know that. But if you
Yeah.
ask your average Joe on the street, he's going to say, "Why is he even on the list? He had one song."
Yeah. I felt that way last year about Todd Rundgren. People would be like, the average person would be like, the Bang the Drum guy?
Right.
It's sort of like Gary Newman with the song Cars, you know, it's
right. But I put him like on a level like it's hard to describe. I mean, he's so unique, but I mean, I sort of tie him in a little bit with like maybe Elvis Costello, and Elvis is in, right? Yeah, both of them.
I also put him up there with the same way with Todd Rundgren, truthfully.
Yeah,
In a lot of ways,
I
very
agree.
similar.
I think
I figured when Todd got in, Warren would be
Next to follow.
next.
I would put Todd Rundgren and Warren Zevon in the same general category when it comes to they may not have had a lot of hits. They may not be famous for many songs, but they had an expansive career.
And they influenced a ton of people.
Yeah.
Across all different genres.
And as a songwriter, their songs will be covered by other artists. Have already been covered by many artists and will be covered for years to come.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I know a lot more about Todd Rundgren than I do about Warren Zevon, but I still think they're kind of in that same vein.
Mm-hmm.
I get him. Who did Bad to the Bone?
That's George Thorogood.
Yeah,
That's George Thorogood.
completely
that's
different.
why I'm like, I can't weigh in on this because I'm like, I get George Thorogood, Warren Zevon, and like these guys. I'm like, which one did which?
Bambi's over here going, I think Warren Zevon is bad to the bone.
I knew enough that I was like, I don't know who did this one and who did that. So I'm not good with this one.
Well, the answer to that question is George Thorogood did it, unless it's Werewolves of London. Any
Now,
song you know.
it's interesting too, because he had a lot of respect in the industry, and so much so, like when Letterman had his heart attack, he actually filled in for Letterman for quite a few episodes of hosting the Late Show. And also he was the band leader when Paul Schaefer was out.
Oh wow.
Letterman was a big fan of his.
Yeah. And if Letterman doesn't do the introduction for him at the hall, I'll be shocked.
That would be an interesting choice.
Yeah.
I would love that. That would be
They
cool.
might use that as a bonus to let him in.
But no, there's so many, I've been lucky. I've seen Warren Zevon twice in concert, and he is an amazing musician, and he's personable, and the stories he told, and it was just awesome to get to see him in concert. And it's a shame it's taken this long for him to get in.
And he'll probably get in the back door. I feel like he's a musical excellence guy.
I don't know. There were a lot of people, including a certain Bruce Springsteen, who played on his final album.
Yeah. Exactly.
And Bruce and Jackson Browne and Billy Joel, I guess, wrote a letter to the nominating committee advocating for Warren Zevon. I've heard people say, "Oh, Warren Zevon, he was hard to deal with. He's a divisive figure." And I'm like, I don't know. I think a lot of people, fans and voting body, who remember that era, who remember the Linda Ronstadt covers that she had hits with, I can see him going in, definitely, on the ballot.
I would like that. I don't have a problem with that. I certainly don't have a problem with him.
I could actually see him getting in on his first nomination.
I think I can too.
Yeah. I think there's a very good possibility.
Quest?
Why, yes.
Yes. And I'd be happy to see Letterman do the induction, and that is my one exception to this trend of having movie stars and TV people do the inductions. I want to see musicians do them. I don't care. I personally don't care if Robert Downey Jr. loves Duran Duran. Whoop-de-doo. I want to hear what other musicians have to say.
Oh, Drew Barrymore and the Go-Go's? What do you
mean? It's very cute. Let them be in the package. Let them say their little thing in the video package. But everybody who is inducted needs an inductor, and it needs to be a musician.
Well, what about Bruce Willis?
Chirp, 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 chirp.
I know. There goes the crickets and the sound effects.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably in no condition to do any hosting anymore. So
but I just mean, how would you feel about Bruce Willis inducting someone, since he's famous for being an actor, but he was a musician?
Well, so is Robert Downey Jr. He's a blues singer.
A singer isn't necessarily
That's true. That is true. That is true.
I mean, you have people like like Dan Aykroyd and other artists who have done music too. So yeah, maybe they get a pass too. But I mean, to Michelle's point, I mean, they made a big to-do with when Bon Jovi got in, that Howard Stern was to introduce them, and they made a big deal about that. And Howard Stern even left New York to do it, which he doesn't do very often. And that was pretty huge. I would love to see Letterman do the same thing. You can get that kind of, you want to get Warren, you want to get attention to Warren Zevon, don't have Jackson Browne induct him. Have the best thing you can do is have David Letterman induct him, and then that gets more eyes and ears into Warren Zevon stuff.
Yeah, it's deeply personal for David Letterman. So
yeah, very much so. So that's
all right. That is your potential list of inductees for 2023. There's only
Excuse me.
we don't know how many people will be selected because they sort of changed that with the whole
Every
like
year.
backdoor. They kind
This
of
is the smallest ballot since 2010, so I have a feeling they're trying to trim the length of the induction ceremony. We may not get 7 this year.
is that in LA?
They have not announced where it will be. It should be in Cleveland, but they have not announced where it will be.
I know that LA's on the table for them to do ceremonies of, so we won't know until April.
So do you
Early
wanna-
May.
Early May.
May.
You want to do our picks real quick?
So
do
yeah,
we pick?
I just wanted to let people know who are watching, listening, that they can vote often. Vote. You can vote often. You can vote multiple times a day, and many days of the week. I mean, it's not just a one-time thing. So if you're
And
really
this won't be
behind
voter
somebody,
fraud, folks. Really won't.
yeah, you can.
Once per day per email. Bear in mind that what they do is they take all of the hundreds of thousands of fan votes and it counts as one vote. So it counts in an infinitesimal way.
One vote compared to everybody else on the committee, and not just the committee, but the whole body. Right, it includes past nominees, right, or not nominees, but past people in.
The voting body, they're very secretive about. It's presenters get a ballot. Inductees all get an automatic ballot. And they used to say, oh, it's an induction by your peers, but then they realized that the peers were voting. They vote like fans. They vote for what they like, and it doesn't, certain acts were just never getting in because they didn't have that popularity factor. And so they've started slipping in some critics and some writers and journalists, and they don't really say how it's.
So you get
You're
how many
voting wrong.
how many votes do you get? Like how many bands or artists can you vote on a ballot?
Official voters can vote for 5.
Okay, so you don't have to name 5, but Bambi, we'll start with you. Up to 5 people that you feel strongly about are worthy of getting in.
Let's see. I got to go through the thing. Let's see. Iron Maiden, George Michael, Spinners, Soundgarden, and I'm going to do the Joy Division New Order. There we go.
Okay. And Ricky?
Definitely Iron Maiden. Cyndi Lauper, Willie Nelson, George Michael and White Stripes.
Michelle.
Who do I want, or who do I think they'll go for?
Who do you want?
Who do I want? Iron Maiden, George Michael, the Spinners, Cyndi Lauper, Warren Zevon, and right below that would be Willie Nelson.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will choose Kate Bush, Iron Maiden, Joy Division / New Order, Cyndi Lauper, and Soundgarden.
Cool.
And Mike.
Me, I'm gonna do Warren Zevon, Soundgarden, Willie Nelson, George Michael, and Joy Division.
Wow, we are all got very different lists, which is, what it's all about. So,
Of
but I
course.
will say, I don't think this is, as Michelle said, it may not have like a wow factor of like, oh, that person definitely needs to be in the first. I don't know if we have those anymore, to be honest with you. I don't know if we have artists that once they're eligible, it's like, yeah, they need to go in right away. Because it just seems like things are different now as far as there's no superstars as much anymore. But again, that's another podcast. But I think it's a good list, and I think everybody deserves to be in, even if it's not my personal taste. I think they're all excellent musicians.
Yeah.
And
there we go. I think we're going to take a quick break and then close up the show.
Sounds good to me.
Interesting. Michelle, you said, that who you wanted. Who do you think is going to get in?
What did I say I think on the blog I said Missy, Warren Zevon, Soundgarden, Sheryl Crow, Cyndi Lauper. I think I might have picked 7. I think Willie was one of them, and I can't remember who my 7th one was.
That's a good.
Somebody took me to task for not picking Kate, and I said, I don't know, with Cyndi on there.
I think Cindy's going to cancel out Kate. Truthfully,
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. No, I agree completely with that. And it's going to be an interesting class. And I'm still upset that the Monkees or Weird Al is still not nominated yet.
Wow.
I don't think that.
I don't think
for the Monkees, you know what?
Weird Al will.
With only one of them still left alive, I don't care if they get in, to be honest with you. Like, they should have gotten in a lot earlier when they were all alive.
Mm-hmm.
And because of what their stupid regulations are, whatever, they've been denied, and I think it's ridiculous. And unfortunately, only one member would really benefit from it. And I don't even know if it would make a difference at this point. So
why were they denied? You said something about
I heard for a long time it's because Jan Wenner hated him. And part of it also could be that feud they had with Don Kirshner, and Don Kirshner was pretty influential in the industry. But Jan Wenner is out of control, and Don Kirshner is no longer with us. I don't know. They're perennially on people's wish lists.
I would put them in before half of the people on this list.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've talked about them before. But they're on my list of ones that should have gotten in that didn't. There's a long, that's a pretty long list.
Did they ever induct Rush?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
10 years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say it wasn't all that long ago, but compared to some of them. But it's interesting. It really, really is interesting.
Yeah, that's the one where Foo Fighters came out and dressed like mid-70s Rush.
That's awesome. That is awesome. All right, you guys ready to wrap the show up?
Yep. I just need to look up something. So keep going.
Okay. So that's going to wrap up another episode of the Earth Station One podcast. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Ricky and Bambi, thank you so much as always.
Thanks for having us.
Anything you guys want to promote or shout out about? No upcoming shows.
I understand the new Tiki Zombie comic is about to come out, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yes, but you guys are actually performing. I know that we're going to see you next month.
Cool.
Oh yeah, they want to come to the roller derby.
We're at the
show.
roller derby. That's right.
With Awesome Kingdom Ramblers. I mean, we have a show this weekend. It's not PKR, but I mean, Radio Cult on Facebook. That's probably the easiest way to find the shows.
That's a better way to do it. There you go.
Possum Kingdom Ramblers is playing at roller derby coming up. So
that's awesome. Awesome. Very cool. And Michelle, thank you as always, and thank you for the blog you do every week. It's a ton of fun.
Thanks.
It's awesome. Anything you want to shout out about or anything? Any music news for this week?
Ozzy's not touring anymore.
Oh, I saw that.
I did see that.
He did do a Super Bowl commercial, but he is not touring anymore.
Kind of like
Ozzy Osbourne in a tie.
He did many years ago.
I thought that, but no, this sounds like it's medically necessary to not tour anymore.
It's
time. I think this
time.
I think it's real.
He can't travel. I think they're looking into trying to find some way he can do a residency somewhere.
I think he just released an album though, didn't he?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, not just, but in 22.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is really, really cool. Sorry about that, folks, with, everything that's been going on in the world and everything. But you know what? We still got music, which is really awesome. It's a cool thing. And Mr. Mike, we've made it through another one, my friend.
We did. And as always, it's my pleasure.
Anything you want to shout out about, sir?
I do. comic creator Lee Giles last year came out with an independent book called Red Scare, the first issue. It was really cool. It was available through crowdfunding. The second issue is going to the campaign on Kickstarter starts for that February 14th. Yes, that's as you're listening to this, that was a few days ago. As we're recording this, that's tomorrow. But anyway, there'll be plenty of time to jump on. And if you missed out on Red Scare #1 in the campaign, one of the options is to get both 1 and 2, so you can get caught up. And I definitely recommend checking it out. It's an action horror comic set in post-war, in a post-war sort of futuristic thing. It's but it's really cool. And I definitely recommend checking it out.
Awesomeness. Very, very cool. For my shout out real quick, I have been seeing another podcast. That's right, folks. I have been seeing the Flopcast. That's right.
You went to Chicken Town.
I went to Chicken Town. Finally, after all these years of having Kevin and Cornflake up on the show, I got to visit Chicken Town, and we got to talk about my top 4.5 concerts of my life. It was actually a ton of fun, and it was hard to actually pick 4.5 concerts.
Yeah, he's like,
I had actually.
You mean 4.5 for just this month?
Well, exactly. You know, it's interesting. I love going to see live music, and we have a ton lined up already for 2023, and going to be a ton of fun to see that. And we talk all the way from me going to my very first concert when I was 2 years old, going to Woodstock, and actually then going all the way to our last concert that we went to just a couple weeks ago, seeing Bruce Springsteen. So it's, tons of fun to be able to talk about that. And Kevin and Cornflake are such great folks. Sadly, Cornflake wasn't available because she was sick. So I just had to hang out with Kevin and drink iced coffee. It was okay, though. It was a good thing. So it was a ton of fun. This week's Flopcast is available now. So when this goes live, it'll be out. So check it out. It's a ton of fun to be able to talk about all that kind of stuff. So that is going to wrap up this episode for this week. Want to thank everyone for listening. If you want to get back to us, feedback at Earth Station 1 is always the best way. Want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Tifosi Optics. Tifosi Optical is a great glass company out of North Georgia, and you know what? They make glasses and sunglasses that are to you what you want. They have your prescriptions if you need it. You could pick your own colors. You could pick your own frame colors, your own frame designs. It's pretty cool stuff what they got. But they also have gamer glasses, 4K glasses. They have blue light blocking glasses, safety goggles, face shields. You name it, they have it. Just check it out, tifosioptics.com. And if you get a chance, put in the code EarthStation1 or ESO Network, and you get 10% off your whole order. Just not one thing, but your whole order. It's pretty awesome, folks. It's pretty cool to do. And you know what? Remember, you can find Earth Station 1 wherever fine podcasts are found. And now Earth Station 1 can be found over on YouTube. That's why we're doing the graphics on the podcast, folks, because we're taking, watching our folks over on YouTube, and our numbers are growing there. So please, if you get a chance, please subscribe and like if you get a chance. Thanks for listening to the show, folks. On behalf of myself, Mike Faber, Mr. Mike Gordon, Miss Michelle Borg, Ricky and Bambi, thank you. As we like to say, we will see you next time here on Earth Station 1. Stay safe, hug your loved ones, and we will see you all real soon. Peace. And
Bye.
we're done. And remember to vote for The Rock, folks. Check it out.
Rock
Peace.
on.
Rock on, dude.